I do not understand what I do, but for what I want I do, chesed, son of Shalumia, Ahiez, or Pedaz, or... That really means something, doesn't it? All right, we're going to talk about justice and the idea of potentially earning redemption. Take a look at this clip.
It will take many good deeds to make up for the crimes you've committed.
You're sparing me? After all I've done?
Yes. Forge a new life, Olin. One of better make.
Then the rest of my life will be lived in your debt.
Go to the place where your family is being held and wait for me. We'll make their lives the first ones you save.
I didn't earn this mercy, but I will die to make myself worthy of it. I will be waiting for you.
So here we've got a character that you don't see the backstory here, but in the backstory, this character committed crimes that resulted in human deaths, and then the player is given the dialogue choices of saying, redeem yourself, and that's like the heart choice, or the nice or compassionate or emotional-based choice. I can't remember exactly what the intention is there. Or the fist, the more aggressive, choice, which is to say your life is forfeit, assuming that she's going to kill her, that she's going to kill the guy. That kind of vigilante justice, I think, would actually fit Aloy's generally judgmental character, which I thought she was a fairly judgmental character among those she came across throughout the game. Or the other option, if you go with the non-killing him option, the redeem yourself option, is to perpetuate the idea that we can somehow make up for the wrongs that we've committed. Here's another clip.
I'm done with that life. I mean, I will work hard, twice as hard, to earn this, for my family to have a place in Elysium. I never thought that there could be atonement.
So here's this scientist that feels like he was part of the problem that resulted in the destruction of the world, and he's being given an opportunity to correct that problem, and he refers to that opportunity as atonement. So he's talking about, in a sense, earning his own atonement. So let's talk about the idea of justice and kind of like earning redemption or paying for your transgressions. Is that something that we can do? Despite the naturalistic leanings of the writing that I believe are present in this game, the desire for justice is something we as Christians can absolutely get behind. And more so, I would say, than the naturalist, because we actually have an objective basis for morality and for virtues like justice. It's not that the naturalists can't have morality and virtues that they claim, but that they make their own. But they can't have an objective basis for those things, whereas Christians can. But that leaves me with the question of why the naturalist characters like Aloy appeal to concepts of justice and redemption when they have no objective basis for it. So let me walk you through my thinking on that. If wrongs can be made up for, this implies some intangible yet objective standard of justice. In other words, this many good deeds can pay for this many bad deeds. But who decides how much is enough? Does Aloy get to decide that? Does a potentially ignorant majority vote? And in that case, of some kind of vote, what's the basis for the decision of the individual voter? Is it how good they have managed to be? Or is it only enough payment in good deeds when the subjective feelings of anger have finally died down among those who have been wronged? And who decides what a good deed is, by the way? Or what deeds are more evil than others? There do seem to be degrees of evil in Aloy's mind. If not, then why doesn't Aloy go around demanding that everyone who is hateful or intolerant perform some amount of good deeds to compensate for their bad deeds? Is her vigilante justice reserved for killers because killing is worse? Again, who determines learns that killing is worse than another evil. And yet Aloy and probably most players can sympathize with the idea of this kind of vigilante justice now and then. We sense that the current man-made justice system falls short, that there is a higher standard of good and justice that we just sense exists, even though it's not being carried out. And that's actually been built into us. We see that, I think, in Romans chapter 2, verses 14 and 15. In the ESV, it reads, "For when Gentiles," that means non-Jews, "who do not have the law, by nature do what the law requires, they are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the work of the law is written on their hearts, while their conscience also bears witness, and their conflicting thoughts accuse or even excuse them." So we feel anger at injustice, and we want wrongs to be made right. And yet that minimal common understanding of right and wrong within us is not consistently reliable because of our tendency to suppress truth that we don't like hearing, and instead we embrace what we're more comfortable with. So that's why I think almost universally we feel a sense of injustice. When we see injustice happening, we feel a sense of outrage and anger at that, because there's a degree of a sense of justice built into us, but it's inconsistent from person to person because we all have this tendency to suppress the truth that we don't like hearing or that we don't want to apply to our lives. Romans chapter 1, verses 19 through 25, I'll read it in the ESV. This is Paul speaking about this default, currently broken state of humanity. He says, "For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things. Therefore God gave them up in the lusts of their hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen." So this means that apart from God, who is alone the completely fair and perfect judge, he doesn't fail to recognize when justice is required, and there's also no overkill on his part. He's a completely fair and perfect judge. So apart from him, we will feel a desire for justice to be carried out, but our efforts in doing that will fall short and might even be logically incoherent or self-defeating, as I think these fictional characters' sense of justice is as we examine it more closely. Okay, a short little topic here. Why should naturalists value life? Take a look at this clip.
Now, those lame FBI black hats at Mockingbird back in the day, I enjoyed schooling them. But maybe I went in too hard on this poor counselor. She was cute, and just going down a checklist after all. Couldn't expect her to see how ridiculous Zero D's ambitions are. God's own budget thrown at a kid playing with a hologram sculptor? Palms up, honey. I'm just calling it like it is. Hey, look, Mom, I'm making nature. Now, if nature is so important, why not let nature take its course? Extinction? That's natural. Zero dawn? No, ma'am, that ain't.
Why, on the naturalist view, where the only thing that exists is matter, there are no objective realities outside of that which is physical, why, in that worldview, should one value this strange phenomenon called life, when that's all it is? It's just a phenomenon. It doesn't have any more actual objective value. It's just different from non-life. So why should it go on? Why not allow extinction, as Tate says in this recording, if that's what's going to be natural? If we're all about the natural world, natural order, and why not just allow natural extinction? And which you could argue, you might say, well, it wasn't natural, it was created by man. Well, on the naturalist view, man is just evolving and changing, and they're developing tools and stuff, and then something went wrong, and it was man's natural choices that led to creating these tools that ultimately destroyed. So I think, yeah, you can absolutely call that still a natural course of events if we are just part of the natural order. Now, on behalf of the naturalist, I think I can say, that we desire for life to go on, and that desire is an evolved survival trait we've acquired that helps our species survive. If not helping us maybe survive individually, then it's there to help our species survive. But the naturalist can't offer an argument for the objective value of life. So on the grounds of objective virtues, Tate's argument here is actually a good one. There are no objective virtues or objective moral values under pure naturalism, and so ultimately no objectively defendable argument for preserving life on the basis of its objective value. Whereas under the Christian view, we can affirm that life has great value because it's part of God's purpose and his intent. And we can especially say that human life has great value because it was created in the image of God. So in other words, in some way it was created to reflect who he is. And what way specifically isn't clear in Scripture, but that clearly gives it value, gives human life great significance, great value. And above and beyond that, the fact that God chose to set aside his authority in the form of Jesus and come down and be submissive to God the Father and to live out this extremely limited life as a human being in which he suffered horribly, was rejected by people, and ultimately died a horrible death, all so that humans could be reconciled to God and spend eternity with him. I think that is a huge indicator there that human life has immense worth that we can't even fathom. So yeah, I think my question still stands here. Like, on the naturalist view, why would they appeal to any kind of objective value of life other than just saying, it's what I want. I want life to survive because that's what I want. That's ultimately the most I think that a naturalist can say, is that it's this desire that is built into them or in them. They have this desire, and at the end of the day, that's all it is. Where on the biblical Christian view, life, especially human life, has immense objective value.